Standing spine car, this is again one of the most basic fundamental motions that we're going to do. We need to be able to master this one first before we move on to other variations of it. I'm going to go through it really quickly just in a refresher type situation if you've done it many times before and just need a little bit of a refresher on it. After that, I'm going to go over the common mishaps of it and the common issues we can have with the spine car in the standing position. And feel free to watch that afterwards if you need some refreshing on, hey, am I doing this correctly? Am I making sure that I'm hitting all these different points so that my spine can get better? So very first and foremost, we wrap the arms around this, make sure our scaps don't help us out. Our feet are glued into the ground. I squeeze my abs. I slowly segment down. My hips do not move. I round my spine as far as I can forward. I twist towards the left. Hips don't move. I take my left shoulder down. I lean back. I push my chest up to the ceiling. I twist over towards the right. My right shoulder goes down to the ground. So I'm going into some lateral flexion there. Again, I'm trying to keep my hips as fixed as possible. I slowly wrap around to the front and then I slowly come up to the top. I then repeat that the opposite direction. I squeeze my abs. I try to segment each and every spinal segment that I can into rounded flexion there. I twist towards the right. I take the right shoulder down. I lean back, push my chest up towards the ceiling, twist over towards the left, rounding down, back to the center, and then slowly come back up. Common mishaps here. Number one, just like every other car variation we do, not going to end range. So if my spine has no pain and I'm just trying to get into some end ranges of motion, just doing here is not going to be enough for a full spine car. If that's as far as you can go, that's fine, but you have to really determine that yourself and not push past pain here to get to a quote-unquote deeper position that you think you have to go to. Go to your end range, but make sure whatever that is, it's to the max every time, again, pain-free. So you got to get to max flexion here. You got to get to max rotation here, max lateral flexion here, max extension leaning back. Got to go into as much of all those different positions as possible to make it effective. Two, big one, never, and I already said this one, don't push into pain. So no matter what position I'm asking you to go into, we never, ever, ever push into pain. We cannot push into pain because that's going to cause more issues than it is solve them. So instead, try to get into those positions, but get into pain adjacent positions. Perfect example, if flexion hurts for whatever reason that morning, okay, here hurts, but here doesn't. Great, that's where I do my car. So in that case, I would lessen my range of motion in my car a little bit. That's fine. I'm avoiding pain, but let's say, hey, here doesn't feel good, but as I twist over here, oh, I can still get really deep over here. Cool, I go a little bit farther in that lateral flex position. Your goal is to find every area of your spine that you can train pain-free and get there. Three, compensations. So as I'm going down, we don't want to see hips drive back. We're not doing an RDL. We're not doing a deadlift. We don't want hips to move at all. Sometimes doing that with feet wider helps, I've found. So if you want to try that out as a variation of this or just as your main method of doing the standing spine car, completely okay with that. That makes sure the hips can't move as much. Typically, they don't move as much when they're in that position, or at least it's easier to see. That's a compensation. Again, the hips can move you, help you out in all these different spots. I don't want that to happen. We want to be able to separate pelvis and spine here. So if your spine can't move by itself, that's a big issue. We need to address that. Part of that is just simply practicing on a consistent basis. Hey, can my spine move without my hips going through? Can my hips move without my spine going through? And vice versa, right? So no compensations there. Using your elbows to get up here in extension can be a big compensation as well. And generally anything with your neck or your chin, like as you're moving around here, can be a big problem as well, okay? Make sure, that's the three big ones at least. As you're going through this, again, I can't emphasize this enough, no pain whatsoever. Max out those ranges, don't compensate in certain positions. And be sure that you're training your end range, your max effort, your best rep, not what you think it should look like. Yes, there's a standard operating procedure of flexion, rotation, lateral flexion, extension, and then repeating that on the opposite side. But you got to make sure that you're getting to your range of motion, and slowly over time, we get to more and more and more. Typically, even some of my high schoolers can't get can't get down to like super deep flexion here unless they use their hips. Okay, so you got to make sure those are fixed, and you got to make sure that you're just getting to your end range of motion, not mine, not somebody else's, not another person's spine. You're keeping that as specific as possible to you.